Amazing. Good morning, mummies. Good morning, Maguelonne.
Good morning, Johanna. Really happy to be here with you all. Good morning, all mommies here.
Yeah. So today our talk is all about conscious parenting. Maguelonne Rousseau is the owner, founder of this outfit that offers you the best parenting courses in town. And not just for parents, but also for your helpers, because we all need to be on the same page, don't we? There's no point us using a certain technique when the helper is doing exactly the opposite. And, this is going to be very confusing. So we're going to talk about that, but also about SleepTalk, which is a fantastic tool that I never knew about with my kids when they were small enough. But this helps kids build resilience and strength and self-confidence and so on. So we'll learn all about how that works, and maybe that'll be enough of a teaser to help you get into this as well and use it for your own. I will probably start by Maguelonne, you introducing yourself very quickly. What do you do? What is your background? What gives you the right to talk about these important topics? What are your qualifications?
Yes, absolutely. So hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. So my name, as you mentioned, is Maguelonne Rousseau. So I'm French, hence the accent. I've been in Singapore now coming on 15 years. So it's been quite a long time, pretty used to Singapore, expatriation and all of that. So I've been doing family and parenting guidance for 7 years now, and I'm a counselor. So I use person-centered and holistic approaches because for me, what is very important is the person. I do feel like everyone can be the expert of their own lives. They just need sometimes some guidance. So this is where I can help. And I'm also for now 7 years also a SleepTalk for Children consultant. So accredited, which is also called sometimes the goulding process. So you might find that online if you look for SleepTalk because they have like kind of two names. Yeah, so I'm also a MEMI, so multi-channel eye movement practitioner. So it's called MEMI. So it's actually something very similar to EMDR, eye movement sensitization reprocessing, and it's called the brain science path to easy and effective traumatic treatment. So what I do when I see people, for parenting, for different things, often a lot of things comes up, especially in counseling, from childhood trauma, from trauma during your experience as a parent. So this is when MEMI can really come into the picture. And also because of my personal interest, something I also use in my practice is actually I'm a certified yoga and personal well-being instructor. So again, for me, this is to understand that mental health and general well-being is not only your head. So I don't want to focus only about your head. It's also your body, and yoga is exactly what the philosophy behind it. It's not only movement. Of course, movement is very important, but it's also understanding how your movement can impact your mental health, your thoughts and your feelings, and how you can do the same with your mental and impact your body. So meaning for me, I use also pranayama, so breathing techniques, and I'm trained also in mindfulness and breathing techniques. And I use that, I incorporate that because I really think that we shouldn't just stick to just few techniques or just like an area. It's actually really a holistic way of seeing persons, and especially when we talk about kids. But because as parents, I feel like, or as adults, we kind of lose it a little bit. So I think it's when we are parents, it's a great way to come back to that mindfulness kids can teach us. So that's basically the different things I'm doing.
That's really great. You have a great toolbox, lots of different methods and modalities that you can draw on. And I think that's really important to be, a well-rounded practitioner. Okay, we'll jump right in. But as a preface, I want to say, mummies and daddies, we don't know, on the call, this is being recorded and we will be posting it on our YouTube channel. But we still want you to feel that this is very confidential. So if you do have questions that you don't want to speak to Maguelonne directly, you don't want to be heard or seen in the video, then please put your stuff in the chat, your questions in the chat. I will ask Maguelonne and we will talk about it and we'll give you a response and so on as well. But the reason why we put it on YouTube is that so many of you are working and otherwise occupied, and today the weather's really nice, so maybe you're at the playground, so you may want to watch this at a later stage. So I think this is a really good place to have it. Okay, let's dive right in. Let's start with conscious parenting. So I wanted to know what is, and yeah, so SleepTalk will come later. So what is conscious parenting when you compare it to other forms of parenting? Where is the consciousness coming in? What is it all about?
Yeah, and I think that's a great question, because that's often the questions I have. But what is the difference between your method and other parenting method? And it's true now, you have so many books on parenting, so many social medias, Instagram, everybody saying I'm doing gentle, respectful, conscious parenting. You have a lot of things. And basically, what I want parents to understand when they come to see me is the conscious parenting I want them to get is it's not a method. I'm not teaching you a method of parenting. It's not just like a principle you have to apply without understanding the principles. It's actually being conscious about what you're doing. So the basic questions I ask parents is, why are you doing what you're doing? So why you are doing it, and how do you do that? And where do you want to go? So that really helps each families, never mind where they are in their journey of parenting, each family can decide what they can do, what they want to do, and how they want to get there. And
I really love this, because this gives the parents so much power. I think we all come from different backgrounds. We were all parented in a different way. And especially when we have mixed culture couples as well, this is where it always comes out. But this is how we do this and how I was brought up and so on. And finding your groove and finding your way and doing what suits you is the most empowering thing, I find.
Yeah, that's exactly what conscious parenting is. So that's why I say it's not a mindset. It's not, sorry, it is a mindset. It's not a method.
Yeah, okay.
And everybody, depending on your culture, what you want to do, your values, might do something a little bit different, and that's totally fine, because you decide what you do because you know that this is where you want to go. So that where I come in and help with asking the question and helping every parent and every family to find their own answers. There is no judgment. If I look at my own family, I'm doing things in a specific way. I'm French, I have a specific culture, etc. So I do things in my own way, but I'm not pretending my way is the best way. Definitely not. I feel like every parent should take into account a lot of different things, but they need to have the space to do that. And this is usually when I can help with, because I give that space so people can think and can decide by themselves. So that's why it's really more like a mindset. But what I do and what I use is actually evidence-based information. So specifically on neuroscience, on the brain, and also on psychology. So all the psychological theories that have been now accepted by everyone, that can really help to understand human beings, to understand ourselves and understand our little ones, so we can use that knowledge to decide, okay, how can I use that knowledge to go where I want to go? So that's really what conscious parenting is, in my opinion, and the way I do conscious parenting with parents.
Okay, amazing. So speaking of trends, obviously there's this book, and I forget the name, but it's a French woman who wrote about the French style of parenting. Yeah. And how it's so much better than anything else, because do you know that? Do you know what I'm talking about? I've forgotten the name.
I know exactly which book. It has different names depending if you're in Australia or in UK or France. Yeah. So I think I can't remember exactly the name, but I think in France is something like why French kids don't throw food on the floor, or maybe that's something like that. Okay. That's the French name. Anyway, yes, so I know that book. I think that book is interesting because it gives you some idea of what parenting is also about. Yeah. Parenting is also being secure in yourself. Yeah. So you like, yeah, that's the way I want to do things. And maybe that's what some French parents has, or maybe this is what she witnessed, the the author of the book. I think she's American, married with a British.
Yeah.
So she comes with two different cultures, and then she was living in France for a while. So I think this is this feeling of, oh yeah, I'm kind of I don't ask too many questions. I don't have many doubts, which I think in a way is good, but in a way is not so good. So that's why
you have to find the balance, but definitely, being confident in what you do and being consistent in what you do and how you handle situations. I think that's, in my own personal experience of 31 years of parenting, that's what's worked the best, I think. But anyway, going back to conscious parenting, I think one of the criticisms that I hear, the doubts that I hear is, are we now being so mindful of our kids that they control us, that they, that we are no longer in charge, but we are at the will and mercy of our children? What do you have to say to that? How is that? Is that true in any way? I doubt it is, but
so
let us know.
The thing again is, when, so again, thinking about those French parents we are talking about, they don't doubt anything. They don't doubt their method of parenting because they just do the same way their parents did on them. So they never ask any question. So there is a good thing in that, being sure, and maybe you feel like you are more in control. But again, conscious parenting is a mindset. So where do I want my kids to be in 20 years? What kind of adult I want to raise in that world? So what values I want my kids to have later? And this gives you a lot of information about how you should react with your child right now. So in some ways, you might feel like, oh, but that's too permissive, but because I leave my child too much freedom to be who he is. But the question is, okay, but if you don't give enough freedom, and again, this is very individual. So I always focus on the parent-child relationship, because you cannot, again, you don't have a method that works for everyone. Some kids might be very sensitive and you might really be more laid back on the discipline. Other kids might need much more structure, and that's totally fine. But again, the conscious parenting is, I understand my child, I understand where I want to go. So then I understand what would be more beneficial in that moment or in that phase of my child's life. So this is when I really don't think it's a permissive style of parenting, because often this is what I hear. Oh yeah, but then we just let kids do anything. No, we just let kids be themselves. So being yourself is not being allowed to do everything and anything. It's very different. So you can definitely be a parent who let your child be who he is, accept your child sensitivities and individuality, but at the same time have a set of rules that you need to be respected. So if I want to sum up a little bit, what is conscious parenting? It's what we call also authoritative parenting. So at the same time, it's a lot of support for my child, but also expectations. Permissive parenting would be a lot of support for my child, but not any expectation. This is when you slip into permissive parenting, and that's very different. And often what happens is people who want to come to conscious parenting or gentle parenting or positive parenting, the way you want to label it, they often comes from a more authoritarian style of parenting.
Yeah.
So a lot of expectation, not too much support. So they want to give more support to the kids, but then they do slip into permissive because suddenly they give too much support and they don't have enough expectations. That's how you slip into permissive. So that's why conscious parenting, if you deeply understand the mindset, and it can take some time, some years to actually fully embody the mindset. Well, yeah, it can slip into permissive parenting, but that's not conscious parenting. Yeah, so that would be how I can explain, people thinking it's a permissive style of parenting.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think a lot of moms, who you may have toddlers at home, you don't even think about how you handle certain situations, how you work with your children, ripples on into their adult lives as well, or their teenage years. So I always say every phase has its challenges, I guess. We all wish for the time our babies crawl and walk and explore, and all of a sudden then we realize, oh, it was so much easier when they were just laying on their play mat. And boy, just you wait until your kids turn into teenagers, because that's a whole other challenge.
Absolutely.
So one thing I want to ask related to that is parenting always goes hand in hand with discipline.
Absolutely, yeah.
And discipline means many different things to different people. So do you want to talk a little bit about that and what discipline means in the concept of, or in the context of conscious parenting?
So actually, discipline, the root of the word discipline means teaching. So when you think about that,
yeah,
you as a parent doing discipline, you are actually a teacher. And that also reframes a lot what is discipline and how you can implement discipline. So I really do see discipline as I'm gonna help you to teach you the rules of society, how you can be yourself and not lose yourself and keep your authenticity, but still respecting others, because that's what it is. We are a social species. We are meant to live together, meaning we need to have some rules. We need to respect some rules. You cannot just walk around and punch people because it pleases you. That is not something that is acceptable in our society. So how do you help kids to manage their emotions and respect the rule? Also understanding the kind of expectations you have, understanding when they're ready to do that. When we know that the brain is actually fully mature at age of 25 and not 5 or 10 or 15, that really helps, that put things in perspective. But yeah, I mean, on discipline, a lot of things to do, but the main thing I would say is really understanding first emotions, your child's emotion, how you deal with that, how you help your kids to develop more resilience, because that's also what we're talking about. And understanding, how to teach my kids the values and the important things. I think my child needs to know to actually thrive in that world, in our society. And when you get those two things together, this is actually discipline, and you will help your child to grow, evolve. And it's also, I often call it the dance of parenting. It's actually sometimes you have to push because you feel at the time you push, sometimes you have to pull. Sometimes you need to lead, and this is very much in discipline, and sometimes you have to be led and you have to and that's why it's a dance. That's why, again, it's unique. And I can give parents understanding of how to do that, but then they will have to go back home and actually practice and actually make mistakes and understand their mistakes and try again, and that's fine, because that's the journey of parenting.
Yeah, and reflect, because I've caught myself many times as I said, I've been at this parenting game for a while, reflecting and thinking of, why did I just say that? Or why do I want her to do that? Like, does that even make sense? Is it because it's just convenient, or because I want to put my foot down because I'm the parent, So just reflecting, does that make sense? What does that do? And so on is a really good thing to do, I think. Talk to us a little bit about then what do you offer in these classes? Like, what are the topics that you go through? Is this a very interactive kind of style? What sort of tools do you teach parents and helpers? So that would be really good to understand for moms and dads. Sorry.
No, of course. So I do try to make my classes very interactive, because I mean, all of us as parents, we have a lot of information already. So I come in with more information, and those informations are not the easiest one. We're talking about psychology, we're talking about relationships, we're talking about triggers, we're talking about actually trying to look at what you're doing, exactly what you mentioned. We're talking about brain science. So all of that is actually difficult. It's pretty heavy, can be pretty heavy. So I definitely want to make my classes more lively, and I want to engage with parents and do that. But of course, I do give, like, I try to make things using different examples with my previous clients, maybe without giving names, of course, but with my own kids. So I have 3 kids, so that helps quite a bit, even though I cannot say that I know all situations, but I do have a sense of different things. I have my oldest one, she's in middle school, so talking about teenagers. And then I have primary school, and then I still have one in nursery. So I still have different flavors, and that helps definitely, and different genders. But yeah, so I do try to make things to have topics also that are kind of size bite, but it's still pretty deep and dense and important information. So I talk about the brain and how the brain develops, because now we know so much about the brain. It really helps us as parents to see our kids in a different perspective. I talk about the stress a lot. So what's happening biologically, physiologically in your body or in your kids' body when they feel stressed, and when we talk about tantrums, because that's actually what it is. It's a stressful situation, and how we can help that. So talking about acknowledging emotions and how we can do that. I talk about play, because play is a fundamental part in a child's life, because play is learning. So how can we help kids? How can we help kids learn better or thrive better in a way that we interact with them that's going to be useful and beneficial and not overstimulating? So again, finding the balance, because play is not more tuition classes. It's actually play, and understand that. And I talk, of course, about discipline. That's one of the big topic. I do talk about sibling dynamic, family dynamics. So when you have more than one child, how you can actually help, the dynamic in your family, because things gonna, it's not the same as having one child, and definitely important to understand. I do talk also about sleep. So it would be more like general healthy guidelines, because when parents have specific issues, I prefer to send those parents to sleep consultants such as Hanita, because she's much better, and she's going to focus more on the specific issues with but giving like general guidance on healthy sleep routines and what is healthy for sleep. It's something also I can help with.
Yeah, amazing. I often think it's all about managing expectations a little bit as well. And that's what I like, where you talk about, brain development and so on, because kids are not just little adults. They are, sometimes we just expect too much of them. We think, well, why doesn't this kid do this? And this is a no-brainer. And, but they're just, they need time to develop and to thrive and to learn certain things. And also to realize that as parents, our kids learn everything by modeling and by mirroring what you are doing. So often in my parenting, I've caught myself thinking, this is exactly what I would say, and you catch yourself in these situations where you think, oh, this is a little me, a little mini me.
No, absolutely. So the role modeling is very important. I think that also helps you as a parent then to maybe realize that maybe some habits are maybe not the best ones, and then you changing for yourself, which will help your child, because your child will look at you and will actually learn from you. So definitely, and that's one of the number one rule in discipline, actually, looking at what you're doing and the way you're doing it. So you're absolutely right.
Parents on the call, please put your questions in the chat or raise your hand if you'd like to speak to Maguelonne directly. Like all our calls, it's really important to me that you get a chance to speak to our presenters as well. One question still on conscious parenting is, what is your experience with helpers knowing or not knowing, following or not following the same kind of principles, or as you said, it's not a method, or learning the same mindset, right? Is this helpful? Is your helpers course a little bit different, I'm guessing, from the parenting one? And how to best manage that? And even in general, how to best manage, this is how I do things. This is my helper who doesn't have the same background or experience or whatever. They have worked for 7 families, but not necessarily in the same style that I'd like them to. So what are your top tips for that?
So definitely having your helper on board is great, especially when you have both parents working full-time and the child spends a lot of time with the helper. So you want your helper to do things that are similar to you in the same spirit, I would say. And this is where I can help training helpers, because having somebody external helps. I think it's very important anyway, no matter what, training or not training, to have a conversation with your helper and explain your style of parenting, so they understand that, okay, that might be better from the previous family I had, or from my own childhood, because most of them comes from a authoritarian style of parenting. So yeah, so having a proper conversation and explaining. So maybe not being like very picky on every word they say, because I mean they won't be perfect. Nobody is.
Yeah.
And they cannot be as good as you parents. So that's something, and they cannot replace you, because that's also something, the fear of mothers, especially mothers. I'm worried my helper, my child will love my helper more. So that's not going to happen. Kids know exactly who their parents and who their mother is. They might enjoy the presence of the helper, and that's actually a good thing for you as parents. You want that because that's helping you.
Yeah.
But I want to put, some minds at ease. Your helper cannot replace you. Mom, it's not possible. It's not going to happen. But if you want your helper to be more on board, so having a proper conversation with her, definitely. Spending time, the three of you, or like the mother or the parents, the helper and the child, so the helper can, again, modeling. She can see how you react and how you interact with the child, so she can start to model, especially at the beginning when you get a new helper. So that's something I would definitely do. And if you want to go even further for the next step, that could be sending your helper to my class, where I actually give the same knowledge as the parent, what I give to parents during my parenting class, but my angle is very different. Because parents, I don't have to convince you that, or convince parents that they need to have your kids need to have a good self-esteem. That's usually a given. Parent coming to my class, yeah, that's what they want. They want resilience, self-esteem, etc. Helpers, they are, not on the same page. They want an easy job, and that's totally understandable. So I actually, my angle is slightly different, because I help them to understand that the way they interact with kids will make their life easier and their job more interesting. And that is really the way I work around, to make them understand that, yes, we're not supposed to go the easy route, give in, or, just don't cry. But we go a different way, because it will make their job more interesting, and it will help them in their daily task. Kids will be easier to manage because of dealing with them in a conscious parenting way. So that's
okay. It's a really interesting angle. Okay, any questions, parents? Again, put them in the chat. Sorry, I need to restart my thing. All right. Do you think we're just about done about conscious parenting, or is there something else that you want to mention?
No, so maybe just going back on what you said at the beginning, I think, conscious parenting, the great thing with conscious parenting is empowering. As a parent, you feel more empowered, because you know what you're doing and why you're doing it. And if you made a mistake, or if you think, okay, that's not working, that's totally fine, because you know that mistakes are okay, and I can just decide to do something else. So it feels very much empowering, meaning also you feel less judged by others, because you understand that they don't understand your specific family dynamic, and they might not understand why you're doing what you're doing. So it's really helpful also if you have, especially maybe family members that might judge you a lot. It can be very difficult, but that's actually helping, because you understand that they don't understand what you're doing, and you know deeply down why you're doing what you're doing. So it really, really helps. And I think
it's evidence-based. I think what our grandparents and so on did, they didn't back then. We didn't have that research that we do now, and we're sitting on so much knowledge now. And I think we're not nowhere near the end of it either. But at least we've learned so much. We've come a long way. So what our parents did, they did because they didn't know better, right? That was just the done thing at the time. But now we can push back and say, no, actually, we are going to change things, because it is proven that that's what we do. Okay, that is helpful. We have a question.
Yes.
How do you think does being in a different country impact parenting? For example, different school versus home, and perhaps less family around.
Yeah, so I think it does impact, especially in Singapore. I see, of course, a lot of expat families. They don't have their close family around, which sometimes is a good thing, and of course, sometimes it's not. So it's like also, and you do. I mean, in Singapore, we are blessed with so many countries, so many like a melting pot of different cultures and everything. I think that's a blessing for kids because they are exposed to many different ways of doing, living life. I think that's great. The downside for parents is it can be confusing because you go to the playground with your toddler. If you meet a Japanese family and an Austrian family and a British family and a French family and a Chinese family, they're all going to do differently, dealing with the same situation, sharing toys, for example, waiting for your turn or whatever. And that can be confusing for new parents. Again, if you don't know where you want to go and what you want to teach your child. So that's why conscious parenting comes into the picture, because it really helps you to secure what you want to do, keeping that consistency, even though you might feel sometimes threatened by what others are doing. And it also helps you not to judge other people and feeling less judged. So same thing, going back to the feeling empowered.
Yeah, this can sometimes be really difficult, I imagine, you doing your style of parenting, your conscious parenting and so on, and then your kid then being confronted with another style of parenting or another helper interfering and handling a situation very differently. So I imagine, any tips for that?
So I think it's always good to speak with your child. So something happened and, like a child is scolded and, another kids at the playground is scolded by the helper or the parent, and then your child doesn't understand what's happening there. So if you feel like your child is really, really wonders, okay, I don't get that situation, maybe you can talk to your child. So minding the age, of course, of your child, maybe you can explain why do you think they do that, and why do you think we don't do that in our families, and what do you think the best way to handle that situation, what do you think that would be a best way? And when you're doing that, you're actually speaking to your cortex, to your prefrontal lobes, trying to understand situation, having more empathy, which is very important in conscious parenting, and you will develop that empathy for others, and that will help your child to understand, okay, so other people, other families are doing differently, but we're doing that way in my family because that's what my parents choose. So my parents are the leaders here, but also there is like a proper background why we're doing that, because that is we feel it's the best way for that and that reasons.
Okay. I have a question that is based on the above one or on the earlier one. Different styles of parenting in different countries. What is your view on spanking?
So my view on spanking is actually don't do spanking. So now you have a lot of research showing that hitting a child is not helpful. And I would say the number one argument would be actually, if you want to teach your child not to hit other people, what do you teach when you're hitting your child? That would be the number one thing. The second is actually when you do spanking, you sending confusing messages to your child. I love you, but I'm also allowed to hit you. Yeah. So what kind of relationships you think your kids might evolve into later as an adult? Like this confusion between love and protection. At the same time, you might be the source of the one hitting me. Of course, spanking, it's you have a big spectrum. I'm not saying if you spank your child once, it's considered neglect. That's an abusive, parenthood. So it's not. So I don't want to make parents worried. Oh my God, I've done that. I hit the hand. It's just generally, again, think why you're doing that. And can you teach in a different way? And if you can, then choose a different way. Because even if it's a small hit on the hand, it's still a way to show that I'm actually using kind of violence to teach you something. And violence never actually teach anything.
Yeah.
That's actually my view on that.
Yeah. I would very much agree with that. And I mean, there's a reason why many countries now have, completely outlawed that, and there's strong, repercussions if parents hit their kids. that should be in the past. Let's leave it there and not bring it up again. Okay, but on a similar note, and I am going to get to the question Maria asked as well, but because it fits in so nicely now, is what is your view on timeouts? So we're not spanking, we're not physically disciplining a child, but are timeouts a good tool?
So timeout is the next best thing after spanking. So when parents started to learn that spanking is not a good way to handle, discipline situations and difficult behavior, they moved to, okay, I'm not gonna use spanking, I'm gonna use a timeout. So then you have different ways of doing timeout. Mm-hmm. If we're talking about the timeout of, okay, go to your room and the 3 minutes by yourself, think about what you've done, come back and say sorry. So this also, I don't think that teaches anything. It's not helpful, and it's not the kind of discipline I would enforce. But you can do some kind of timeout, but you remove the child from the situation, but you go with the child and you are supportive and you acknowledge his or her emotions and you explain the situation and in a way that is helpful. So we're not talking about full-blown tantrum, because explaining situation in full-blown tantrum, survival mode, doesn't help. It's like, calm down. It's not working. We know all that. But it's explaining, like describing what happened, why the child maybe had that difficult behavior or challenging behavior, and what we can do to help next time. So it's actually properly teaching. So this timeout, that would be the kind of things I actually recommend parents to do, because you at the same time drawing the line, now stop, I remove you from the situation. This is when you are the parent and you are the leader and you decide, okay, that's enough, and I remove you from the situation. But at the same time, I support you. I'm here, I'm not judging you. I try to understand what's going on for you, and that will help you to improve next time. And maybe as a parent, I need to understand many things. Is my child hungry or tired, or something else is going on, and can I help with that? Because every kid, they have needs, and as parents we are responsible for the needs no matter what their age are, but they also have wants, and sometimes we don't agree with the wants, and that's also fine. So finding the difference between the needs and the wants really helps parents to decide when they need to intervene, how to do that, but also caring for the kids.
And it's also being responsive and respectful, I think. That's the underlying theme, I guess. One question we had, how can we help toddlers build more confidence? And maybe you want to say something about that, which is not the sleep talk that we're talking about after. And the second question in that vein is, how do we help them stand up to other kids who are mean to them in the playground?
Okay, so how to get confidence? Well, the first question I would try to understand is with the parent is, what do you mean by more confidence? So, because there are different layers. Is it because something happened and you want your child to learn to stand up for himself? Or is it because maybe you expect something different, a different, temperament from your child, and you want your child to be more confident? So what is it? Is it expectations, or is it support? You see the difference? Because if I want my child to be more confident, maybe I have that idea of my child should be like this. My child should say hello at 2 years old to everyone, and smile and talk to people, and that's how my kids should be. And maybe my child is more an introvert, and that's fine. It's not totally fine. There's no problem with that. But so expectations first. What do you think a child at that age should be, and why you think your child has a gap with your view? And can we help you connect more with your child and who he is? Because we can be introvert and confident. That's not a problem. Introvert doesn't mean being shy. So that would be one of the first questions I actually help the parents pinpoint. What do we mean? What do we put behind confidence? What is it exactly? Then how you can help a child stand up for themselves. So in many situations, if you can let kids deal with their struggles together, it's actually good. You're just watching. But I also think that you cannot just let kids deal with their own struggles by themselves, especially when we're talking about toddlers, because some will be more dominant than others. And it means that if you just let kids deal with their issues together, then the dominant one will kind of always win.
Yeah.
And the one who is more maybe introvert will actually feel like, oh, that's the way it is. I should always let other more, you know, people with more natural authority or more dominance, you know, lead, and that's it. And I don't think that's fair also for those. So
yeah.
When you are trained, you know, with conscious parenting, usually our parent, when things happen like this at the playground and I see something happen, I actually teach both of them something. So maybe a child took a toy, and I'm going to say respectfully, nicely, friendly, I'm not judging the other child. I'm not saying, oh, she's a little brat. No, I don't think that. I don't judge any kids. And I'm going to say, hey, sorry, but my child didn't finish play with that toy. He's going to give it to you when he's ready. And I would teach the other child, hey, you have to wait for your turn, but in a nice, friendly way. And I would teach my child how to do next time, hey, sorry, I didn't finish playing with that. I tell you when I'm ready and I give it to you. So I teach both my kids how to actually handle a situation like this, both the kids. And that's also something you do, of course, in siblings when you have like your own kids. But it's more complicated because then naturally you have to support your own child. In siblings, they are all your kids. So you feel sometimes like you have to choose, and it's not what you have to do. But yeah, that's also
okay. So when is the best time for a helper to do the course, and what age should the kid be? And I actually want to extend that, because also for parents, it's interesting to know. I see that we have parents here who have a baby that is maybe 1 month old, 5 months old. Is it too early? Should we be starting when they're tiny babies, or is it better to do it later on when they're a little bit more vocal, or, you know, whatever? What is the best time?
So for me, the best time is when you feel you want to know more. When as a parent, you're ready, you want to know more, and you feel like, okay, I want to know how to handle those situations, or I want to know in the future how I will handle those situations, this is the best time. So what I have in my parenting classes is parents of 4 months old, and I think that could be a great time to start. Of course, if it's your first child, tantrums, it's still hypothetical because you don't know exactly. So you're just like learning, but you have in advance some guidelines on how to do it. And anyway, I'm always happy to help parents later on because you are on different journeys. So a different, you know, time in your parenting journey. So it could be a great time when your baby is young, because you feel like, oh, now I understand better stress and what, you know, high stress will do to the brain. And then it makes more sense of how I can respond to my child. But of course, for me, what is most important is the motivation of the parent. If you feel obligated to do that, maybe you're not ready yet, and that's okay to wait. When parents comes to see me, when the kids are toddlers, it's also a great time. Sometimes it happens you don't have so many issues with your first child, but then the second one, with the second one, you have more issues with the first one, and then this is when parents come to see me, and they didn't feel that need when they had a first child, which is fine. So my answer would be, trust how you feel. Do you want to know more right now, or do you feel like, oh, I should do that? That should be good to do that. If you just feel it, I should do that, maybe wait a little bit more until you feel very motivated and you feel like, oh, I want to know, to learn more. That would be the best time to actually start the classes.
Okay, amazing.
And the question on helpers, you had a question on helpers.
Oh yeah, when the helpers could do the,
I would say it would be, of course, it's not so much the motivation of the helper, although now I see much more motivation from helpers compared to when I started many years back. So I think it's great. I would say it's my classes for helpers. I try to cover baby stage till toddler until 5, 6, right? Okay. So I always adjust my classes depending on the age of kids, and I will give different examples depending on the age of kids. And I also recommend helpers to come with their own examples so we can work on tangible, you know, situations.
Scenario.
But from babyhood is fine. Of course, discipline could be is for a little bit older child, not so much baby. But we also talk about the importance of not letting a baby cry, not laughing when a baby is crying, because we find them super cute, which is true. Babies crying can be cute, but you know, it's laughing is not helping. So I talk about those things too. But maybe discipline would be, of course, like when your baby is at least over 6 months would be better. But yeah, I mean, it's again, it depends on your level of comfort as a parent. You feel you want your helper now to go to the class or not.
Okay, I'll take one more question on conscious parenting because I really want to move on to SleepTalk. We're running out of time. So one question is, how do we consciously parent a toddler who's testing boundaries and procrastinating? What is a good age to teach kids that there are consequences to their actions?
So consequences, toddlers can understand consequences, and you don't have to make consequences like, oh, I told you so, or now you're very punished. You can also support your child when he goes through consequences. Giving you an example, child doesn't want to leave the playground, then maybe your child doesn't have time to read a book later. So maybe you say, sorry, you don't have time to read a book. And your child might cry, and you will support your child through that time, because you're going to acknowledge the emotion. But next time you might remind your toddler, hey, remember last time you really wanted to read a book. So do you want to leave the park now so we can have time to read a book? Or do you want to stay longer? But then we don't have time. So helping them to have a choice. When I'm a toddler, I'm getting that I am a different person, and I have choices, and I have a life that I can control, and also I feel very much out of control. So for some toddlers, giving them more control is really helping. But more control means, do you want the blue dress or do you want the red dress?
Yeah.
That is a control. That is a choice for a toddler.
But we're still.
What do you want to eat? That is too much. That is too much control. You see, you need to find also the balance, so you understand what your child needs. A child who is procrastinating, well, yeah, when you have to do something you don't like, of course, everyone is procrastinating. So for a toddler, how can you make things fun? Brushing teeth, not my best thing in life. How can I make brushing teeth, you know, a bit more fun, so I actually want to do it, and I go through it like this. So that's also learning all of that. Being creative in parenting is like #1 top skill.
On tool, absolutely. Okay, moving on. SleepTalk. We have a lot of people thinking, and I even got questions, you know, when I posted it on Instagram and so on, thinking that this is sleep training, but it's absolutely not. So please enlighten us. What is SleepTalk? How does it work? When to use it, and all of that?
Okay. So yeah, so I know SleepTalk, the name is a bit deceiving because you feel like, oh, it sounds like a sleep training method. So it's not. So it's called SleepTalk because you actually use a positive affirmation when your child sleeps. So you're going to talk when your child sleeps. That's why they call it SleepTalk. But I think they got that. It might be a bit confusing. So now they have this other name. They call it the Goulding SleepTalk, the Goulding process, because the founder of this program, and I was trained by her, is Joan Goulding. And so you see that also online. So sometimes I put like SleepTalk because people also know the name, the Goulding process, that's the two names. So it's not a sleeping training method. It's actually more a method that's going to help your child to build self-esteem and to build resilience. It's based on hypnosis and positive affirmations. I'm going to teach the parent what to say, and the parents will do that at a specific time of the night for the child. So don't worry, not in the middle, not 2 a.m., but just, you know, a first cycle of sleep. We understand better what's happening for the child, and we're going to do the SleepTalk. It's just 5 minutes, so it's really not a long, it's not a big investment. I mean, it's a big investment in terms of you need to do that for many weeks. So it's not a miracle. It can work like a miracle. I've seen huge changes for kids and families, including working on kids having ADHD and like prescribed Ritalin. So instead of doing Ritalin, SleepTalk was actually really helpful. But it takes time. We're talking for that specific kid, if I remember correctly, was something like 6 months. So it was like a heavy case. But yeah, you need to do that for many weeks. You talking to your child at night. It can help with sleep, because that's actually how I came to SleepTalk myself as a parent. I helped my child not wake up so many times, but because I knew that it was not like a developmental issue. It was anxiety. It was actually dad was going on a business trip. That was the first time. My child was 18 months. And then my child was waking up 5 times at night. And I really linked to the fact that she was stressed that daddy was not here, daddy was really involved. And basically I helped her with the sleep talk, and that really helped to make her more less anxious, so she could actually sleep better. So it will help to sleep if it's because of the sleep issues are because of anxiety. But your baby is teething, natural neurodevelopment, SleepTalk will not change. SleepTalk will change your child. SleepTalk will help to ease up tensions. So things are a bit more not so on the edge, but it won't change your child's temperament or personality. You cannot make your child love piano suddenly. That's not working like that.
But what are specific situations where you found that SleepTalk was really helpful?
So actually, you have a lot of different scenarios, and basically everything you think you can work with hypnosis or affirmation, that would do with SleepTalk. But the main things I work with is kids with like attention deficit disorder, but also like might be learning difficulties, anxiety, including kids with, like I work often with naturopath, for example, or holistic doctors when the child has eczema. And so they work on something with the eczema, but I also work on SleepTalk, and the combination really helps the child to get over, the situation. So that could be that. I worked with like kids having peeing themselves while they were potty trained. And it was again because of being stressed, changing schools, things like this. That would be the situation, the most difficult situations. Big tantrums, like over the top tantrums. So usually if I see parents and I get that there is something going on, then this is when I would help with SleepTalk. But otherwise, other situation would be, even if your child doesn't display symptoms, I would help with SleepTalk with, moving houses, starting a new school, moving countries, of course, having a new helper, that could be a thing, having a baby, a new baby in the family. So the mom being pregnant, I would do SleepTalk.
I was thinking separation anxiety,
yeah, definitely.
Not wanting to go to school and being...
Yeah, all of that. So giving more self-assurance, confidence. I feel it's not going to be easy, but it's okay, I can face it. The difference between it's not easy and I don't want to face it. SleepTalk will help with the avoidance part.
Okay. And how and why does it work?
It does. So sometimes it doesn't work if, for example, parents, they don't tell me the full picture of what's happening at home. So they tell me, oh, my child has a lot of tantrums. So we work on SleepTalk, but they actually don't mention that the father and the mother, they've been arguing a lot in front of the child, and the child is so this is the example that I have. I have something in my mind over the years. I knew that 2 years after we started SleepTalk, the parents were divorcing, and I never knew they had issues. So that would be the times when I don't have the full pictures of what's happening at home, then it is not working as we want, because other things, because of course SleepTalk is a tool, but if you blame your child all day long, even if you do SleepTalk at night, that won't work. So that's why it goes really well with conscious parenting, because it's like it will be a tool that help ease up tensions, but you continue doing what you do as a conscious parent and understand and support your child emotionally and all of that. So that would be the situation where I see more struggle. It's like that.
But it works because you are analyzing the situation, you're figuring out what is wrong, and then you have these messages that the parents tell the child when they're in a state of sleep where this message can enter their unconscious mind or subconscious
That's
mind.
exactly that. So it's really the same basis as hypnosis. So you just find that relaxation state where the child sleeps and where he still hears you on some levels, because you cannot, I mean, unless you put something on your ears, you cannot actually shut down your hearing sense. You're always hearing stuff. That's why important to keep that in mind as parents. What we don't want our kids to hear, we do that really privately. So like fighting, you know, it's okay sometimes to have arguments with your spouse, but try not to do that when your child sleeps next door, because that will impact your child if it's like a recurrent thing.
Okay, I have an excellent question in the chat now. My child is constantly constipated and holds it in until it really hurts. She's a very sensitive soul and gets separation anxiety very easily after a difficult situation. How could SleepTalk help in this situation? Do you think that's got a chance?
So actually, I was about to say, and another few cases I had was actually potty training, not potty training, but issues around toddler age with holding poo and all of that, because that's really a sign of feeling I need to be in control. And when I understand better what's happening, we can work on, you know, like parenting, coaching sessions on how we can help that child to feel more in control in his life, and at the same time apply SleepTalk to help ease up tension so the child feels it's okay to let go. It's actually okay to let go. I'm still safe when I let go. But if you know that there is something specific that happened to your child, meaning maybe your child once was sick and it was very painful to go to the toilet, and you know there is a specific thing, we can also try to use the MEMI, the Multichannel Eye Movement Integration, because it is a kind of a trauma. So SleepTalk will help with that trauma. But you can also do some eye movement and see if that helps, because I truly think that could be also a great way, different things to combine to really move faster. It's not the goal to be faster, but in those cases of trauma, you don't want to stay in that state for too long for kids. You want to integrate memory and move on.
Yeah. And how early can you start that?
The MEMI?
Yeah.
So I think you can do very early, as long as the child would be okay to follow something, a pen, and we adapt to kids. And actually kids, they are so, you know, kids are so great. They can, you know, they can bounce back so easily. Sometimes you just do few things done. So and of course we always, I mean, when we do MEMI with kids, we always have the parent with us. So the child, it's not like a session, it's with the parents, and we do what we can to really help the parents. So so far I've been working with kids up, you know, around 6 years old, so a bit older than toddlers. But I would be willing to try actually with toddlers, because that could just make things, you know, just few movements. Some people, they really react really fast in a good way. So
amazing. I love that. Okay, and just like that, we have reached the end of our session. How amazing is that? It's just crazy how time flies by. I was so impressed with all of your questions, Mummy. Thank you so much for coming onto the call today. Just to end things off, is Maguelonne, tell us where you're offering your courses and when your next courses are going to be and how people can reach you, basically.
So yeah, I want to thank you for the questions also. It's great to have great questions and to be able to share. So my next courses, so parenting group classes. Now I offer my classes at Mother and Child Tangling Mall. So my next Help Us classes is starting on this Friday, so 22nd, Friday morning. So you can book through Mother and Child. I can send you the link later if you want. So that would be the Help Us class. The parenting class, I have one going on at the moment, so you cannot join that one, but you can join the next one, which is starting 18th of May. So you don't have to wait for too long. So that would be the two things. If you want more private consultations, I can do online, or my office now is in Tanjung Pagar, so I can also do, a face-to-face session. If you feel some people prefer face-to-face, some people prefer online, no problem. I can offer both.
Amazing. That's really great. I love it. And we will try and put all that information under the YouTube video as well, so it's visible for people. And I will be sending your leaflet or the information for the helpers and the parents class out in the WhatsApp groups as well. So mummies, that you have a chance to sign up for that. And yeah, thank you so much for spending the morning with me. It was really helpful, I've found. Lots of really good questions, lots of really good information, and definitely, hopefully, that has given you a taster to want something more and to find out the parent that you want to be and get some help with that as well. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Johanna.
So much.
And if I can finish on that, if any mommies or any parents need help, please reach out. It doesn't have to be like a session and everything. Please reach out. It's always good to find, people who can be there, who can support you. That's really my goal. So I want mommies to know that, because it's important. Sometimes we feel alone and we're struggling. Struggling is normal. It's being a parent. So yeah, don't hesitate to reach out.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you, mummies. I hope you all have a lovely day today, and we'll see you again next week. Okay. Bye.